welcome to our dear guest, our keynote speaker, accomplished TEDx speaker, and District 59 winner, Meza!
Life is too short to waste time in Toastmasters. So don't waste any time. Make every moment of your Toastmasters experience a meaningful one. Those were the closing words of an inspiring educational session by Mr. Dana Lamont, world champion of public speaking of 1992. And as I was listening to him, I was trembling. It was last year, August 12, 2015, and it was inside of a huge conference room in the Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. It was the first day of the international conference. And do you remember the very first time that you gave your icebreaker? Or the very first time that you competed in a club contest? Well, I was trembling like that, but 10 times like that. Because although I had been competing for 3 years now, it was the first time that I was going to compete now on the semifinals of the World Championship of Public Speaking. I didn't know at that moment that during my semifinal I was going to go overtime and be disqualified. 7 seconds. I didn't know that then, so I was still nervous because I was going to compete. And Mr. Dana Lamont was saying, life is too short to waste time in Toastmasters. So make every moment of your Toastmasters experience a meaningful one. His voice succeeded to take my attention away from my nervousness, and I asked myself the question, how am I making my Toastmasters experience a meaningful one? As everybody else was applauding Mr. Dana Lamont, I was asking myself that question, and I looked to my right. 2 meters from me, I saw Thomas Rose, who was the champion of District 95. And right there, I got my answer. And that answer is what I would love to share with you today. Raise your hand if you have ever been in primary school. Okay, yeah, most of you. Not over there? Okay. Now, I went to primary school too, but I went to primary school in Mexico. So I don't know how it happens here in Czech Republic, but in Mexico, at the beginning of the scholar year, all the kids, all the students arrive with brand new notebooks, rulers, erasers, and also brand new set of color pencils. So when the drawing class arrives, it's very fun because everybody's showing off. There are 12, 24, or 36 sets of color pencils. That's at the beginning of the scholar year. Now what happens already halfway into the scholar year? What happened to those colors? Well, the red is already lost, the green is broken, and the yellow one, well, it's probably chewed from the little brother or the dog. And that's when the really interesting part starts to happen in drawing class. Because it's the moment when we start saying, can I borrow your red? Oh, you want to use my blue? I'm not sure about, okay. Can I borrow your green? And it's in that moment that we start to learn how to share the resources that we have and to ask for the resources that we no longer have. Is already practice in life. And thanks to those skills that we developed, we were able to create drawings that we will not be able to create if we stay only with our color pencils. When I think about my experience last year with Thomas Rose, I think that's exactly what happened between him and me. We shared our color pencils. It all started, we shared our color pencils. It all started when I became the champion of District 59 and he became the champion of District 95. So we had a Skype call to discuss how we were going to go about the next stages of the contest. And I told Thomas, you know, there's a club in Brussels that is inviting me to rehearse my speech. Why don't you come along and then we do it together? And he said, cool, that's a great idea. Now, on the other hand, there's a club in Aachen that is inviting me to rehearse my speech. Why don't you, Antonio, come along and we do it together? And I thought that was a really good idea. And apparently, other people thought that it was a really good idea. Because after some time, we started to get invitations from other clubs, from other cities, to go there and together rehearse our speeches. The idea was not only to rehearse our district speeches, but also to create the new speeches that we needed, because in case you pass to the final, then you need to have a brand new speech. So we wanted to create our new speeches in a collaborative way, a little bit in an agile way, as we had the principles a couple of hours ago in a workshop. So that was our idea. We try our new speech, we get feedback, we fix it, we make some changes, we present it again, we get feedback, and we work it out again. We put our photos together, people were very enthusiastic about it, and we call it The Road to Vegas. Very fancy title. And we did it not only in Paris and Brussels, but also in London, in Aachen, and in San Jose, California. So we did it 5 times, and every time we had between 60 to 70 people coming from the club that was organizing, friend clubs, and even people from other countries that were coming. And it was fantastic. It was like a festival of delivering a speech, creating a speech together, having the best evaluators. It was an amazing experience. After the international speech contest was over in Vegas, the last evening at the gala dinner, then we are surrounded by 2,000 Toastmasters of all around the world, dressed out with their most fancy outfits. And I am again with Thomas, and we are raising a glass of champagne to the road to Vegas. There you go. At that moment, Thomas has a trophy because he got the 3rd place in his semifinal. And as for me, let's say that I was learning again the importance of paying attention to the timer. But in that moment, that didn't really matter anymore, because what we were celebrating was our new friendship and the friendship that we developed with dozens of other Toastmasters around Europe and in the world. Many people from District 95 and 59 were coming to us to say how inspired they were by our collaboration. And we were feeling really proud about that, because we put our resources together and we were able to create something new. How do you make your own Toastmasters experience a meaningful one? Mr. Dana Lamont, World Champion 1992, he makes his experience meaningful by delivering educational sessions. And today, during this weekend, the organizers of the residential weekend are inviting us to show our colors. So how do you do that? Again, Mr. Dana Lamont, he cannot see colors. He's blind. So when he competes in a speech contest, when he delivers an educational session, or when he is delivering a keynote speech, He cannot create eye contact, but he doesn't need to, because he's a master in creating heart contact. And with that and the power of his voice, he's able to hold a room for more than 1 hour and have the attention of everybody. In the words of The Little Prince from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, what is essential is invisible to the eyes. You have to learn how to look with your heart. So for today and tomorrow, I also invite you to look with your heart to the people around you. What do you discover? Not only about showing your colors, but about discovering the colors of the people around you. And what can you do? What becomes possible when you put your color pencils together? It's called creativity and generativity. But what do you need to create the conditions for creativity and generativity, for collaboration, for creating something new together? One thing that you need is a safe environment. And that already Toastmasters gives it to you, because what is Toastmasters? It is a group of people that gets together, they become friends, and they give feedback to each other to grow together. That's the essence of Toastmasters. So a safe environment you already have. But what else do you need in order to show your colors, to acknowledge the colors of somebody else, and to create something new together? First, you need to know and to recognize your own colors, yourself. Second, to be open so that you can enrich your color palette. And third, to be able to build relationships of collaboration or complementarities. Each one of these points is important if you want to grow yourself and to support somebody else to grow, if you want to create something new together. The first point is about recognizing your own colors. And I'm not speaking here about, do you like more green or do you like more red, or is yellow your favorite color? That you may know already. But what I'm speaking about here is, what are the colors that stand for your values? What are the colors that give you that sense of being home? How do you recognize them? Obviously, using colors as a metaphor for what is really important to you. Sometimes it's easy to know. Sometimes it's easy to be articulate about it, but not always. However, it is very easy to recognize them when you're in front of them. And that happened to me last year. Before Vegas, before competing in my club, way before, in January last year, I was in Mexico, and I was in my honeymoon, visiting my home country, visiting the Mexican Caribbean. And we were visiting the city of Mérida, which is a wonderful, beautiful city. And you have gorgeous weather, warm, blue sky, colors, vegetation around, architecture. There's lots to see. So I asked my wife, darling, what would you like to do today? And she says, looking at the magazine with all the tourist attractions, well, I think I would like to visit this place. And it's the Museum of Mexican Handcrafts. So I say, okay, we can go there. I'm not very enthusiastic because I think that I already know everything there is to know about Mexican handcrafts. But my father, with his wisdom, had already given me a very important piece of advice. If you want a happy life, you should have a happy wife. So you never say no to your wife in your honeymoon. And there we go to the Museum of Mexican Handcrafts. I'm willing to please my wife, but I didn't know what was waiting for me there. In Mexico, for Christmas, we have a tradition of building nativity sets. And these are little figures that represent Virgin Mary, Saint Joseph, the baby Jesus, the angel, the cow, the donkey, the angel. Do you get the idea, right? Okay. And there was an exhibition about this kind of nativity sets from many regions in Mexico, many different styles. But there was one that was waiting for me. This one. It was a wonderful little piece that represented the Holy Family having a joyride inside of a Volkswagen sedan. They were riding offering this trip to the baby Jesus, and it was colorful. The wise men are behind them. Everybody's having a great time. And I thought, this is a beautiful way to represent something that is very sacred, something that is very deep for a lot of people in a fun way, in a fun and colorful way. And I thought to myself, I don't know who's the artist that did this. I don't know where does he or she lives. But I know we belong to the same tribe. I know I belong to the same tribe than these artists. Maybe I don't feel the same with a lot of other Mexicans now. I've been living 12 years out of Mexico now. But when I see this, and you know I'm a cartoon artist, then I feel this resonance. And I say, well, there is some country that we are both part of. And that's what I mean by recognizing your colors. Sometimes it happens with something like this. Sometimes it happens with a person, with a sports team, with a music band. But there's something that lets you know, I belong to the same group than this person. Now we're here together in a Toastmasters event, so we belong to the same Toastmasters community. But try to go a little bit beyond that. Find the people that when you meet them, you have that feeling, that resonance. I don't know, I just met you, but I think there's something more. I think there's a resonance. Maybe we belong to the same tribe. And that's one way to know for yourself your true colors. The second thing is about being open enough to nourish your color palette. So last year I went to Amsterdam in November for the conference of District 59. I honestly wanted to come here as well to the District 95 conference, but I couldn't. But I guess it doesn't matter anymore because it was in my destiny to come here anyway. But anyways, I was there for the conference in Amsterdam, and I had one free day before the conference started. So what did I do? I went to visit the Vincent van Gogh Museum. I've always been fascinated by Vincent van Gogh. But there's something that is very interesting about him. Now, when you think about Vincent van Gogh, most people would think about paintings like this, a very colorful self-portrait, a very psychedelic Starry Night, or a very warm and colorful artist studio. And these are common images that a lot of people have when they think about Vincent van Gogh. You may have your own. But something that is very interesting is how he started. You know, Van Gogh, when he started, he really wanted to be like the Dutch great masters. He wanted to create special connections between light and darkness, like Rembrandt. And you can see that in his earlier work. When you visit the first floors of the Van Gogh Museum, you can see paintings like this one. This is called the Potato Eaters. And you can already see there the passion of Van Gogh, but you cannot yet see his colors. So what happened for Van Gogh? What happened that he went from the Potato Eaters to the colorful artist studio? What happened is that he went to Paris. Now, it's not only about Paris itself. I've been living in Paris for almost 12 years, and I've been walking in the same streets, and I've been even in front of the house where he used to live with his brother, Theo. But it's not about that. It's about the community that he found when he went to Paris. When Van Gogh went to Paris, he met with a very special group of painters, artists, that were taking painting out of the studio and into nature. They were called Impressionists. You may know people like Renoir, Gauguin, Manet. They were sick about painting indoors, and they were painting outdoors. They were painting landscapes. They were painting parties. They were painting picnics. And when Van Gogh started to hang out with them and create friendships with them, he was open enough to let himself be influenced by them. First, he started to call himself an impressionist as well, but after that, he didn't care that much for the labels anymore, but his life and his work had changed forever. He was open enough to let his own color palette be transformed. Now, how long have you been in Toastmasters? Some of you, maybe a few months, some of you several years. How have you changed from the first time that you went to Toastmasters to now? And are you able to predict how is your color palette going to change between now and a few years from now? Maybe one day you will see how you started and where you are, and you will also be surprised about the contrast. So let yourself be influenced by others and enrich your color palette. And the third point that I want to make for you is about creating complementarities. When I was a kid in Mexico, I wanted to be a painter like Van Gogh. And I grew surrounded by the work of wonderful artists like Diego Rivera, Frida Kahlo, you may know, and thousands of others anonymous Mexican artists, most of them very colorful. I was very good at drawing, so my parents took me to painting classes. And I still remember my first painting teacher, a man that maybe he was about my age now. He loved to paint colorful skeletons for the Day of the Dead in Mexico. And he told me, okay, you have here your primary red, you have here your primary blue, you have here your primary yellow. Add some black and some white, and learning how to mix all of them, you can create all the colors that you want. And I was immediately fascinated by the alchemy of color collaboration. 30 years later, I don't paint with oil or acrylic or watercolor for now, but I'm still mixing colors. And as you heard, part of my work today is a cartoon artist. So I do cartoons that look like this, a little bit colorful. I illustrate books for business people, for personal development, for university students. It also looks like this. So you can understand that I was very happy when I was invited here to speak to you about colors. Not only is about illustrating books, but there's also another dimension to this, which is called graphic facilitation. I don't know if you're familiar with this concept. Are you? Graphic facilitation is about using the skills of drawing and listening to represent in a visual way what is happening in a conference room, in a seminar. So I can be in a room like this where there's some seminar happening or a brainstorming session, and then I'm capturing the main ideas with words or with drawings. And it can look like this, in a very big format, or it can also be electronic, because sometimes I also do it with my iPad. And technology today is wonderful. So I can do drawings like this simultaneously as somebody else is teaching. Now, if we take a look at the technology, for example, there are great applications that you can use to draw. And you can use a wide range of color options to nourish your work. But you're still a little bit constrained because there's still a limited amount of colors here to choose from. Now, there are other applications, as I was using here, where they have understood the magic of color collaboration, because they allow you to mix. So, for example, if you take your yellow and you take your red and you take, here it is, and you take your blue, you have your basic colors. To your blue, you add a little bit of yellow, you get your green. To your yellow, you add a little bit of red, you get your orange. To your red, you add a little bit of blue, you get your purple. And this is what we call a chromatic circle. Now, why I am speaking to you about chromatic circle right now? Because if you want to create complementarities, then you have to understand that the opposite of yellow is purple, but it's because if it's its opposite that is the perfect complement. They create perfect contrast. If you want to know how to combine colors, you can use this very simple principle. The opposite of red is green, but it's because it's the opposite that they create the perfect contrast. So they're the perfect complements. The same goes for blue and orange. So when you want to create complementarities, when you want to work in a team with somebody, when you want to create a team to create something new, you don't look for people that are already very similar to you. You try to find people that are different, that have different resources, that have different color pencils, people that may have a different set of beliefs, and sometimes that can be a little bit challenging because obviously we feel more comfortable with people that already think like us. But if we get surrounded by people that think like us, we're not going to find the solutions to the problems that we already have. We need to have a new mindset. And a way to build a new mindset is by acquiring a very wide range of resources. This is what it becomes possible when you are working under pressure and you know how to combine those colors. So, when you put Thomas Rose and me in the same room, you find two men that are very, very different. But we were able to give each other resources and create that complementarity. We were able to open up and to nourish our color palette because we were learning from each other and we were learning from the people that were nourishing our speeches. We were also able to recognize our own colors because we were challenging each other to be each time more true to our true message. So each time a bit more sincere in our speeches. Today I'm really looking forward to be nourished by the colors of Prague. And I want to invite you to look around you for the rest of today and for tomorrow, and to look at people with the eyes of the heart. Let yourself recognize your own colors. Let yourself be open to nourish your color palette and be transformed. And meet people that are different so that you can create complementarities. And in this way, I can guarantee you are not going to waste your time in Toastmasters. You will make your Toastmasters experience a meaningful one.
Thank you very much, Antonio. We will definitely try to think how to mix our colors. We can. Next round of mixing our colors is happening just within a few minutes. So this break, we don't have a coffee break. Just within the next 3 minutes, try to move to the room where is your next workshop, and we continue right away with our afternoon half of the education part. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for this.
Thank you.
Please tell me the names of the apps that you used.
It's called